We'll start, and in the meanwhile, the rest of our speakers will join. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone who has joined us for this policy dialogue from different parts of the world. I welcome you all, dignitaries, excellencies, to this high-level policy dialogue on water transversality for poverty alleviation and social inclusion, organized by India Water Foundation as an official side event of the 64th session of Commission of Social Development. Water is a fundamental driver of economic growth and equity, essential for health, productivity, and livelihoods. Investing in waters and sanitation and hygiene infrastructure yields high economic returns, with $1 spent in Africa generating a $7 return, supporting over 1.7 billion jobs in agriculture and industry. Despite this, more than 2.3 billion people live in water-stressed regions, and by 2050, demand for water is expected to exceed supply by 40%. Climate change, poor governance, resource mismanagement, and systemic inequalities mean that access to water remains deeply uneven. Women and marginalized communities are disproportionately affected, often bearing the brunt of water scarcity, contamination, and conflicts over dwindling resources. Over 1 billion people in the world today live in unacceptable conditions of poverty, mostly in developing countries. More than 80% of the world's extreme poor live in rural areas at rates nearly 3 times higher than among urban. Poverty has various manifestations, and seclusion is one of them. So, how do we come out of this vicious cycle? What are the transformations we need at policy and implementation level to combat this challenge? To analyze the same, we have organized this event bringing together leaders and experts from multidimensional organizations to deliberate and serve as a space for discussing recommendations and gather support for joint action towards the 2030 agenda. To initiate the session, I request Dr. Arvind Kumar, President, India Water Foundation, to set up the tone for this event. Dr. Arvind Kumar is a strategist and key influencer in development sector with more than 30 years of experience as an author, columnist, water activist, and specializes in concepts like ecosystem-based adaptation, ESG, water energy food nexus with specific emphasis on transversal approach of interlinkages between water, environment, and SDGs. He is on the roster of UNFCCC as an expert on Article 6.4 of the Paris Agreement. He has published over 500 plus research articles and several books. He is a proud recipient of Achievers Award for his contribution to environment from International Human Rights Organization in collaboration with United Nations Information Center, India. Dr. Kumar, please.
Thank you, Sweta. Good evening, everyone. Sri Rajbhushan Chaudhary ji, Honorable Minister of State for Jal Shakti, Government of India. Sri Amit Ghosh, Additional Chief Secretary, Health, Medical Welfare, Family Welfare and Medical Education Department, Government of Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Satya Tripathi, Secretary General, Global Alliance for a Sustainable Planet. Dr. Yugal Kishore Joshi, Program Director, Niti Aayog, Government of India. Engineer Ashwin Pandya, Chair, South Asia Global Water Partnership. Dr. Ritesh Kumar, Director, Wetlands International, South Asia. Ms. Dalia Sabri, Member of the Board, IWRA Executive Board. Ms. Stefania Corrado, Advocacy and Communication Expert, Mountain Partnership, FAO. Dr. Deepak Ranjan Sen, International Researcher, IMI, and our online audience. The triple planetary crisis of pollution, climate change, and biodiversity loss that we are facing poses a serious threat to achieving global target of SDG by 2030. As per World Bank report, 575 million people will face extreme poverty in 2030, and with households being deprived of access to essential services, most notable sanitation and drinking water. The implications for the poor are of particular concern due to their vulnerability from heightened exposure to increased scarcity of water resources, climate vulnerability, and extreme events. Too much or too little water had dramatic and enduring impact on poor from the immediate and life cycle impact of drought or flood to shifts to rainfall patterns. There is an imperative linkages between drivers of the environmental change and water ecosystems, poverty and social exclusion. Poverty is multi-dimensional state of de- deprivation which socially excludes the uh, deprived. Water emerges as pivotal element which play a multifaceted role in our ecosystems, economies, and human well-being. SDG are integrated action in one area will affect outcomes in others, and that development must balance social, economic, and environmental sustainability. You cannot address poverty without education, hunger, health, and clean water and sanitation because all of them are intertwined. So are decent work and economic growth at the most fundamental level, access to safe and reliable water resources, multidimensional poverty. Water transversity stimulates livelihood diversification by integrating water security and decentralized renewable energy, local health systems, and nutrition. These initiatives strengthen household resilience, reduce diseases, burden, improve sanitation, and better nutrition create a healthier workforce. Within turn enhances productivity and income stability when water management is linked with agriculture, agro processing, fisheries, and micro enterprises. Communities move from sustenance and survival to value added economic participation by generating green jobs, revive local economies, and create uh, climate resilient income streams. The water-based livelihood models have shown that restoring water sources can simultaneously restore dignity and economic agency among marginalized groups by treating water as a unifying access across sectors and stakeholders. It transforms water security into a catalyst for inclusive growth, equitable development, and social justice. In this sense, it is not just a framework for resource management, but a pathway towards dignified and sustainable human development. Water is an enabler that helps us tackle all the biggest global challenges of our time. When water reaches the last household with reliability and fairness, it becomes the most quiet and most powerful instrument of social inclusion. Good management of water resources brings more certainty and efficiency in productivity across economic sectors and contributes to the health of the ecosystem. Taken together, these interventions lead to immediate and long-term economic, social, and environmental benefits that makes a difference or to lives of the billions of the people. I congratulate all the departments and partners working on this mission, and I especially acknowledge the communities because no water program succeed without the public participation. So therefore, cooperation is required across geographical, political, economic, and expertise boundaries. Only working together with a unified focus can we, with the help of water transversality, achieve a more sustainable future in 2030. Just round the corner, I show that authorities and galaxy of experts in the panel will deliberate on this challenge, which will result in some concrete recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar. For the chair address, we have Shri Rajbhushan Chaudhary ji, Minister of State for the Ministry of Jal Shakti.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Namaskar. It is a privilege to address this high-level policy dialogue on water transversality for poverty alleviation and social inclusion, a theme that lies at the very heart of sustainable development in the 21st century. Water is not merely a resource, it is a connecting force linking health, livelihood, gender equality, climate resilience, food security, and human dignity. Recognizing this fundamental reality, the Government of India has consciously placed water at the center of its developmental paradigm. Under the visionary leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji, India has adopted an integrated and people-centric approach to water governance, ensuring that water policy does not function in silos but act as a catalyst across sectors. A defining example of this approach is Jal Jeevan Mission, launched in 2019 with the objective of providing safe and adequate drinking water through households tap connections in rural India. At the time of launch, only about 16% of rural households had access to tap water. Today, more than 81% of rural households, over 15 crore homes, receive drinking water at their doorstep, and thousands of villages have achieved Har Ghar Jal status. However, the true impact of Jal Jeevan Mission extends far beyond infrastructure. Access to water at home has reduced the drudgery faced by women and girls, improved school attendance, lower health expenditures linked to waterborne diseases, and enhanced household productivity. Importantly, women are not just beneficiaries. Over 24 lakh rural women have been trained as water quality tester, making them active custodian of village water system and leaders in local water governance. Community ownership is central in this transformation. Village water and sanitation community, self-help group, and local institutions now play a vital role in planning, implementation, and maintenance. This ensures that water services are inclusive, accountable, and sustainable. Water transversality is equally visible in India's approach to livelihood and employment. Larger scale investment in drinking water, irrigation, watershed development, and sanitation have generated millions of days of employment, particularly in rural and water stressed regions. These programs create opportunity not only during the construction but also through long-term operation, monitoring, and community management, directly linking water security and poverty reduction. Our Jal Shakti Abhiyan, Catch the Rain, has transformed water conservation into massive movement. By rejuvenating traditional water bodies, recharge structures, and watersheds, the campaign strengthens groundwater availability, enhances climate resilience, and stabilizes rural livelihoods, demonstrating how collective action can deliver inclusive outcomes. In agriculture, initiatives such as Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana and Per Drop More Crop promote water use efficiency through micro irrigation and participatory management. Complemented by programs like Atal Bhujal Yojana and National Aquifer Mapping, India is integrating science, policy, and community participation for sustainable groundwater management. Equally important is integration of water, sanitation, health, and ecosystem restoration. The Swachh Bharat mission has protected groundwater, improved public health, and restored dignity, while the Namami Gange program demonstrates how river rejuvenation can simultaneously improve ecology, livelihood, and community well-being. Friends, India's experience shows that when water is placed in the center of development planning, it becomes powerful equalizer, reducing poverty, empowering women, strengthening inclusion, and building resilience. As the world confronts climate change and growing water stress, transversality must become a global development principle. Communities must be empowered because resilience does not follow from the top down, it grows from grassroots. In India, we often say, Jal hai to kal hai. If there is water, there is tomorrow. Let us work together to ensure that water remains a force for equity, dignity, and shared prosperity for all. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you so much, sir, for presenting the perspective of the government and what they are doing in the realms of various water and sanitation programs. Now, for the keynote address, I invite Shri Amit Ghosh, Additional Chief Secretary of the Government of Uttar Pradesh, on Medical, Health and Family Welfare and Medical Education Department. Shri Amit Ghosh, please.
Namaskar. Dr. Rajbhushan Chaudhary ji, Honorable Minister of State for Jal Shakti, Government of India, respected Dr. Arvind Kumar ji, President of India Water Foundation, other eminent speakers, distinguished panelists, and my dear friends. At the outset, I congratulate India Water Foundation for convening this high policy dialogue. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the India Water Foundation for providing this exceptional platform to engage in meaningful policy discourse and to be given an opportunity to contribute to shaping a shared vision for water-led development, social equity, and inclusive growth. Ladies and gentlemen, I am really grateful for the opportunity to speak on a theme that sits at the very heart of public health and social justice. Indeed, there can be no social justice without robust public health paradigm. Water transversality for poverty alleviation and social inclusion is a theme whose time has always been there, and it is never more important and never more relevant than what is happening today. Water transversality, let us understand, it means treating water not as a standalone sector, but as a connecting thread that links across sectors. From the perspective of the Department of Health and Family Welfare and Medical Education, this connection is tangible, direct, measurable, and critical. What I mean to say, unsafe drinking water and poor sanitation are powerful determinants and drivers of diarrheal diseases, undernutrition, anemia, parasitic infections, and repeated childhood illnesses. In the state of UP, for example, 53% female adolescents are anemic. Why does this happen? It happens because of poor nutrition, but it also happens due to repeated episodes of illnesses during the periods of growth when the girl child is growing. These adolescent girls later become married women, and typically they marry at an earlier age than the urban girls, and therefore the newborn starts at a disadvantage. Therefore, the incidence of stunting and wasting in small children from these disadvantaged sections is alarmingly high in our state. A daily wage earner we can take another example. Who falls ill loses income immediately. A mother who spends hours fetching water loses time both for paid work and for caregiving. A girl who drops out of school due to lack of safe toilets loses her pathway out of poverty because she loses the opportunity of acquiring an education. So, when we talk about water transversality, we are talking about the upstream determinants that decide whether health services succeed or struggle. Uttar Pradesh has been moving robustly in this direction through a convergence of programs that place the poor at the center. In rural areas, the Jal Jeevan Mission has brought the goal of functional household tap connections closer to every habitation and every house. And importantly, it frames outcomes beyond what we routinely call as infrastructure, and it improves health, reduced reduces drudgery for women and girls, leads to reduction in school dropouts among girls, and increases local employment opportunities. Therefore, the Jal Jeevan Mission is a profoundly pro-poor pathway because the poorest households bear the highest, within quotes, hidden tax of water insecurity. And what are these? Loss of time, illness in the family, and insecurity. Every tap at home is not just a service connection, it is a household level poverty intervention. Why does this matter for inclusion? This is a question we may ask. The answer is because the urban poor, often living in dense settlements, are the first to face shortages, contamination, and high coping costs. When formal water networks expand and stabilize, it reduces dependencies on unsafe sources and expensive informal supply. Long back, as a young trainee in the district of Bahraich, right in the Tarai region, I went to a village and I drank that water. I had to be hospitalized. So what I'm trying to say that the poorest of the poor people living in those areas were actually drinking that water that I, by drinking, immediately fell ill. So this is the kind of position from which the Jal Jeevan Mission has given security to these poor households. It's a big thing. But water security is not only about supply. I may add that it is also about sustainability. Many districts depend heavily on groundwater, and overexploitation hits the poorest first. When hand pumps fall or shallow aquifers fail and shallow aquifers become unsafe. Here, community led groundwater management becomes a crucial inclusion tool. A transversal approach insists on what we may call targeting by vulnerability, not only by geography. That means prioritizing habitations with high disease burden, remote hamlets, and aspirational blocks, marginalized communities, dominated settlements, and areas with recurring floods or droughts. It also means ensuring that schools, anganwadis, and health facilities have reliable water and sanitation so that services reach everyone with dignity and safety. Distinguished panelists and members in the audience, I state that inclusion is created when water programs generate local livelihoods. This is a very new thing for those who have been in the development sector. The shift to household taps, local operation and maintenance, water quality surveillance, and community institutions have led to the creation of roles that can be anchored in local youth and women's groups. When this is done intentionally in a planned manner The same intervention that reduces illness also creates income and skills, helping families move from vulnerability to resilience. I now come to my sector. As Health Department, our commitment is to deepen this convergence. We will strengthen linkages between drinking water supply, sanitation, nutrition, and primary health care. We will support water quality awareness and testing and ensure that community health messaging connects safe water to child health and maternal health, and we will keep a close watch on disease trends so that water related risks are identified early and addressed quickly. In fact, I may mention at this point in time that the Department of Health has got a State Health Institute whose mandate is the primary mandate is to monitor the quality of water, not only in health facilities, but available to the poor communities. So this is, I recently reviewed the working of this institute and advised them to come up with an ambitious program to go for testing the quality of water that is available so that disease burden can be reduced. We will also work with medical education department. As you know, UP has now got 84 medical colleges across the state, of which 44 are government medical colleges and public health institutions to build stronger evidence on what works, because policy becomes more inclusive when it is guided by real outcomes. And there is a well-known adage that what gets measured gets done. Let me now, at this stage, close with a simple thought. Poverty is not only the absence of income, it is the absence of security, dignity, and choice. Long back, the Prime Minister of India, when I was in school, had said that poverty is the biggest polluter. Let us continue to treat water as a connector across sectors and as a promise that development will reach every family without discrimination. This will require huge commitment from the government, from the development sector, from researchers, global policymakers, intellectuals, thinkers. We all need to come together to make sure that water as a thread that connects across sectors becomes available to those who really need it in order to come to better their lives. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir. And yes, we all align with your thought that poverty is the biggest polluter, and we have to work conscientiously towards it to eliminate it in our lifetime, maybe. Because Dr. Pandey is joining from Toronto and he has to go for a funeral, so I'll jump him up the line. So our next speaker is Shri Ashwin B. Pandya, currently Chair South Asia Global Water Partnership. He is the former chairman of the Central Water Commission and former Secretary General of the International Commission on Irrigation and Drainage. An alumnus of IIT Delhi, he has over 40 years of professional experience in water resources and irrigation planning, design, implementation, and financing. And Dr. Pandey, please.
Thank you, Dr. Arvind Kumar, Honorable Minister of State for Water Resources, Mr. Rajbhushan Singh, and then also my other keynotes and fellow speakers. I'm sorry to be jumping the queue, but some unfortunate constraints are posing me. As far as the water transversality is concerned, it's a concept whose time has come very early. The issue is that we have been focusing on various issues like the integrated water resources management, which had the transversality concepts as a seed within the thought process of integrated water resources management. The enabling environment for the water management, especially in the large countries like India, was laid quite early. But that is not the case on a uniform basis across the world. Many of the countries are still struggling with these issues of the water equity amongst their various populations. The need of the present hour is that we have been able to create a number of assets from various locations and from various sources. How most efficiently to utilize these resources lies in the key of transversality. If we have an equitable distribution, then all the sectors of the society are in a position to receive the water as per the appropriate quantity and appropriate quality. And this is a very, very important issue that needs to be attended to in the world over. Currently, we are having a almost more than 73% of the water consumption in the agriculture, and that's a very, very important issue of water management. In this agricultural sector, the transversality problem is felt very, very acutely because when you have to do agriculture water management, you have to not only manage with the time, but also with the space. And then there are various societal groups who will have different societal values and who will have different societal weights, which create a kind of a competition amongst them in order to see that the maximum amount of water, which is a very vital resource for the agriculture, becomes available to them. For this purpose, it is very much necessary that the community-based agricultural management and water management is carried out in a manner that the water reaches the agricultural practitioners in an equitable manner. Because the prime place from where the food and fiber security can be achieved and can be handled for any country are through the agricultural practices. And agricultural water management provides a very important part of this transversality dialogue. In India, we have been having the activities of Water User Association. We are also having activities of modernization of our irrigation networks because our irrigation networks, which were basically thought about from the point of view of achieving this kind of a transversality and preventing the droughts, have been more than 150 years old. And because of that, there are number of issues that come up with relation to the timing, with relation to the various other societal issues that have happened because of the development. So from that angle, it is very much necessary that the transversality is not merely seen in one sector, but it is required to be seen in every sector of water management. In respect of the drinking water supplies, this has been felt very acutely. And at the urban context, that has been always highlighted very, very highly. And similarly, now with this Jal Jeevan mission, this particular initiative is going into the rural areas also. Similar kind of issue is required to be handled at the agricultural level. Because in agricultural level, we have practices which are consuming a large amount of water and in the process affecting the transversality in the areas which are not really well served with the water. We also have various compartmentalization from the political point of view. And unfortunately, because of the political points of view, the transversality and equity is suffering, and for which the classes which are in the in various positions of power and in various positions of political weight are also required to look at this on a very, very serious manner. So in total, I would say that the water transversality is an area which requires to be looked at from every angle. We need to also look at our sources, how sustainable those sources are, how much we are committing those sources to various participants, and because of that, are we disturbing the equity or are we managing the equity, and to what extent this particular water management can be made on a community basis so that the communities are able to realize these issues on a larger scale and a national awareness comes through this particular dialogue of transversality so that the needs and grids are balanced between the two and we are able to achieve a transversality regime in many of the countries. So thank you very much. I am sorry to have jumped the queues, but then I wish this seminar a great success, and I feel that we will have a very serious dialogue on these very vital issues. Thank you, India Water Foundation and Dr. Arvind Kumar for having given me this opportunity to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pandya. And we definitely agree with you that transversality is something that needs to be adopted immediately now. Our next speaker for today is Dr. Satya Tripathi. He's Secretary General of the Global Alliance for a Sustainable Planet, a development economist, lawyer, and change maker with over 40 years of varied experience. Mr. Tripathi is also the Chancellor of Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences and Senior Distinguished Fellow on Innovative Finance at the World Agroforestry Center. He has served with the UN for more than 2 decades in key positions and was most recently the UN Assistant Secretary General, Head of New York Office at UN Environment, and Secretary of the UN Environment Management Group. Mr. Tripathi, please. Dr. Tripathi, you're muted.
Sorry about that. And thank you to the India Water Foundation for organizing this very important conversation. I say this important conversation not as a matter of being nice to the organizers, but because we do not really understand the transversality of water to the existence of India as a country or its people. Because we just, the whole conversation is about silos. You're doing something, and you do that in silos. There are government departments, and as Mr. Ghosh pointed out, and the Honorable Minister pointed out, that there is very little understanding that water is actually at the heart of the development paradigm. And interestingly enough, Mr. Ghosh cited an example of his falling sick in a village when he went and consumed some water that the whole village consumes while he was a trainee, perhaps at the academy in Missouri. My experience, where I was there a few years earlier, is no different. Actually, when we went on our village visits and all, many of my colleagues fell sick. And this is not today. I'm talking about the late 80s. So the situation has actually gotten much worse since then. And we do not see water as something central to our existence, but more the whole conversation sometimes veers around either we see it in activist terms, and we complain that the activists are being very alarmist about water, but at the same time we do not really understand how central is water to the existence of India as a country in terms of national security. It is a country with roughly 18% of the world's population, but we have only been blessed with 4% of the freshwater resources. Countries like Canada and all, which have a tiny sliver of the population that India has, but they have multiple times the freshwater reserves as a country. So we were given a very hard bargain to start with, and we haven't done very well with that bargain, unfortunately. We took that, and over the last many years, it has actually gotten much worse in terms of the groundwater availability and what we have actually done with the groundwater that we had available to us. And then that is a matter that should be concerning all of us. So I'll focus my thoughts today on two things. What is it that we need to do in terms of where we have gone wrong terribly. And on two fronts, it's not just water, because we see water as a standalone thing. Water is not. I mean, if you look at water, if you look at health, it's drinking water, sanitation, disease prevention, WATSAN, and what you have, the major programs that UNICEF runs, or if it is food systems, whether it is irrigation, it's livestock, it's fisheries. If you talk about energy, it's hydropower and the cooling for either nuclear power or thermal plants or what have you. If you talk about economic growth, it's industry, mining, manufacturing. Or talk about urbanization, India will be living mostly in cities in the next 30 years. And then you're talking about, go back in history 2000 years to the Roman Empire and beyond. Cities have risen and fallen based on water availability, water systems. And some of the greatest inventions on water conservation and all have come throughout history because there were rulers that really cared about water and what it does for people. And then the elephant in the room, global warming and climate change, floods, droughts, resilience, migration, conflict, climate justice, one could go on. And so if you're talking about development, you don't build roads and schools and hospitals and add water later. It has to be at the center of every conversation. Water realities must guide every development decision we make, whether it is India, whether it is any other country. Unfortunately, that is not happening right now, except for some very public-spirited officials that are really well informed, that really want to do the right thing. And of course, lots of credit to Prime Minister Modi for putting water at the heart and center of it. But even then, the Prime Minister really thinks big. But then as it goes down the food chain, right to the village level, the implementation sometimes falters. And it falters not because there is not the right intent or the right resources or the right motivation. It falters because leaders at the grassroots are not well informed, well trained to understand the implications of how central water is to our very existence. We go with a lot of myths. Water is infinite. It isn't. And some people say, oh, water is a technical issue. It's not a technical issue. It's a political issue. It's an economic issue. It's a social issue. And then people say, well, you can manage it sector by sector because industrial water is different from fresh water for people and all. It isn't actually. Everything is connected. And so that's why, integrated water resources management is such a fundamental concept. And so that's why, if you go back through the history, and this is what I wanted to talk about, and go back to 50s, and groundwater use, that has been, we started this whole business of mechanized bore wells in the 60s with the Green Revolution. It boosted our cereal production, but hugely increased demand for irrigation water. And what did it do? What it did is this. At independence, India's soil carbon levels were about 3%, the soil organic carbon, as we climate folks talk about much, was roughly about 3%, which is pretty good actually for any country to be fertile and to grow food for its people. Now, on an average, we are below 0.5%. We're pretty close to all the soil being called dirt, and then we keep forcing fertilizers and pesticides into these. And then, you go back a little further, in 1980s and 90s, India became the world's largest user of groundwater. We were extracting roughly around 250 cubic kilometers per year, and if you want a comparison, that's more than the whole of United States and China combined. And United States is 4 times the landmass of India, even more, and roughly 1/5 the population of India. And so we are in a very difficult situation, and that is why when I started by saying thank you India Water Foundation for focusing on water and especially water transversality, it is a very important conversation that we need to have much more often. And now, lastly, I wanted to make this point, is that now we're going to town with AI and what AI will do for us, but we are not using. I was recently in Indonesia. I was moderating a very high-level session with the presidential envoy for climate change, the Speaker of the Parliament, and and the chair of their National Chamber of Commerce, and many others. And one of the things that came up very strongly was everybody was talking about AI. And my thoughts were that we are using AI without intentionality. What does that mean? What it means is that it's a great tool, it's not the end of everything. And it's like we take a high precision tool to sharpen a pencil. We don't need it for that. If you're using AI, it's not for stealing on homework, or cheating on homework. AI should be the tool that you use when you are trying to think across spectrums, think across different universes, or water transversality for that matter. And then you bring different domains together to think in a way that you don't plan for one at the expense of the other. So that's what is extremely important. So India is thankfully catching up on the AI race. We're going to set up a lot of data centers. Andhra Pradesh just announced a few months ago. I recently hosted the Honorable Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh in Davos in a very important conversation about the amazing work they are doing on sustainable farming, with 1.8 million farmers already enrolled in natural farming programs that does not use any chemical fertilizers or pesticides, anything synthetic. And the opportunity is this, that when you move to natural farming, you're saving 50% water already. We need to make these investments that are coming in data centers, whether it is electricity or water, which is the biggest concern of sustainability professionals worldwide as far as AI goes. How do we make these investments become climate neutral? Get them to buy water credits from wherever water is being saved, whether it is recharging groundwater or rejuvenating rivers or bringing back our static aquatic ecosystems, whether it is ponds or lakes or everything. How do you bring that balance, marry both in a way that you have the leadership in the data universe, but not lose out the leadership in the ecological universe, without which we are all dead. So I want to leave you all with that thought, that we need to be imaginative. We need to bring together these two different universes together that must not live at the expense of each other, but must live in harmony and strengthen each other in a virtuous cycle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tripathi. And definitely, India is becoming an data center hub. And at the end of the day, it also needs water for cooling. So it should be a concern. Thank you for pointing out. Our next speaker for today's evening is Shri Yugal Kumar Joshi, Program Director at Niti Aayog. He oversees key sectors including drinking water and sanitation, water and land resources, IT and telecom, tourism and culture, and also leads communication and Northeast region engagement. Shri Yugal Kishore Joshi, please.
Namaste and greetings of the day. First of all, I'm very thankful to Dr. Arvind Kumar and Dr. Shweta Tyagi, India Water Foundation, for inviting me to this very important dialogue. We have heard Honorable Minister, then Mr. Ghosh, Dr. Pandya, and then from UN. Two things I would like to begin with. Transversality is very, very important. And, the idea has been ages old. Only thing is that I would like to point out to a kind of dichotomy or the contrast, We all know that without water, we cannot survive, number one. It is a resource that is deeply revered across all cultures. Through civilizations, we know it. But we are the people who, misuse it badly, very badly. So whenever I talk about water, I listen to the issues related to water. I have this very firm belief that water is a finite source, and all the issues related with water are basically management issues, water management issues. And thank you very much, India Foundation, for this bringing transversality issues. Before talking about few good examples, I would like here to quote again Honorable Minister of State, who talked very beautifully that water should be placed at the center of development. Because any sector, as it was pointed out by the earlier speakers, that we cannot imagine, any development, any aspect of human life without water. So I would like to tell you that, for example, if we learn from Singapore's water story, how Singapore was dependent on Malaysia for its water, and how they bought and how they made water as the center of development. It is an example. Kindly forgive Singapore for agriculture things. Agriculture they don't do, but all other things. Here I would like to quote from the great Lee Kuan Yew, that how they made Singapore center of these all policies. He writes that Singapore has constructed one of the best public policy laboratories in the world in terms of water resource management. Why and how? But the real big secret is how Singapore integrated its public policies from many dimensions. The talk of transversality, which we are talking right now, from public housing to urban management, from industrial regulations to education, all this was done within a larger and complex political vision, which included a long term view of Singapore's prospects. Now, in India, also, when we talk about big ticket reform programs, whether related in sanitation, water, and others, we talk about four key things, which Dr. Arvind Kumar also in his address said. Number one is the political will and the understanding at political level that water affects everything. Second is the public finances. Third thing is the partnerships. Partnership with everybody from academia to industry to agriculture and everything. And then people's participation because they are the ultimately the owners and the users, the biggest stakeholders of this water theory. Dr. Pandey spoke about the integrated water resource management. I think that's what, when we talk about the interlinkages for water transversality, multi-stakeholdership or ecosystem-based, everything is covered in that integrated water management. Now, coming to one thing, I would like to quote from one Indian example. When we were talking about sanitation, there is a ministry in India, now it is a department that is called Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, which used to be custodian or the major stakeholder in for sanitation. So when the Swachh Bharat Mission or Clean India movement started providing uh, toilets to every household, then it was thought that such big ticket items or such big issues cannot be left to only one department. So it was thought that why not the sanitation becomes a responsibility of each and every ministry, each and every institution, so that it becomes integrated, it becomes ingrained into their day-to-day activities. As a result, you will be amazed to see that huge amount of money every department, every ministry started putting in the basket of sanitation. Similarly, I feel here, learning from the examples, especially from those all countries which have seen water scarcity, that how water can be integrated to all the schemes of all the departments and ministries. Number one. Number two, here we also listened about the semiconductor and upcoming this AI revolution. It is already there. And we know, for AI centers, data centers, how big amount of water we all need. So water, whenever we talk about any new plan, any new project, any new policy, I think, it should be, water should be an integral part of it. Now, for example, I would like to quote here one or two data from UN. We all know about SDG goals and the importance of water in it. There is a Chinese study that mentions that for each unit increase in SDG 6, that's basically water and sanitation, the overall level of related SDGs increased by 0.73 units. So this is huge, And as we all know, each and every country huge population, very few resources of water. But here I would like to point out one more example from India in our experience. That is the water poverty inequality nexus. It's globally it is there, but more so in the countries like ours, in African or least less developed countries. And what happens that poorest households across the world pays the highest economic and health costs for water in the form of lost work days due to waterborne disease. We heard about some of the previous experiences of the few bureaucrats, women's unpaid labor in water collection, dependence on informal and unsafe water resources, etc. So this water stress exacerbates not only the rural stress and migration, but as slowly all the countries of the world are becoming more and more urbanized, it becomes bigger, complex problems of water management and how, it should not be related or only focused to one or two ministries like in India, but it should be the responsibility of each and every department. In India, one more thing we really lack is how to reuse the used water. So water wastage is highly sensitive. Just now we got an example from Andhra Pradesh that the natural farming, it saves almost 50% of water. So similarly, Government of India has been propagating many such water efficient practices in agriculture. But still, the issue of reuse of that water is a big challenge. When we provide water to all our 140, how many? This is 1.4 billion people with a rate of say 55 liter or so, what happens to the water that is coming out from the households after use? So there are many challenges, and until and unless we take care of the entire water loop, this problem is going to be there, and then transversality will be really a dream. Ultimate thing, in my opinion, is to understand that the water which dinosaurs used to drink, we also drink the same water. So water has been there. Only thing, as I again said, how we value it and how we reuse it. Now, one more thing, the important thing here comes the role of the institutions. So whenever I look water from the perspective of transversality, I see, the integrated interventions towards aligned institutions, incentives, data systems, and behaviors. Whenever, in India, we need to run huge campaigns on how to conserve water, how to reuse water, and how to conserve our natural water resources. So these things all in go tandem. Though there have been instances, since 2014, when the new government has taken place, they have a plethora of programs, all interconnected. For example, I would like to tell about the Ganga River rejuvenation. Similarly, there was rural water supply program, I think the largest in the world. Similarly, there was rural and urban sanitation programs, groundwater management programs, the PM's program for increasing the irrigation coverage that we call the Krishi Sinchai Yojana. These all programs have come as a package to take care of water in a whole. Finally, I would like to conclude by saying that by adopting a transversal approach for water management that integrates water into development planning, empowers communities, and prioritizes equity, and sustainability, world can ensure that every drop of water contributes to dignity, opportunity, and resilience of all. Ultimately, we got some better quality water from our ancestors. It is our responsibility to hand over this precious resource to our next generations in the purer form. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joshi, for pointing out some tremendous work that has been done in the country, and also a challenge of the wastewater usage. So thank you so much. Our next speaker is Dr. Ritesh Kumar, Director, Wetlands International South Asia, and a specialist in integrated wetland management with over 25 years of experience. He has led major projects on wetland assessment, ecosystem services, climate adaptation, and water management across South Asia, and works closely with India's Ministry of Environment on wetland policy and planning. Dr. Ritesh, please.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. Thank you, Madam Tyagi. India Water Foundation. Honorable Minister and several dignitaries have already presented extensive views on the sector. I come from the side of nature, and I'll restrict my comments to the issue of nature being put not exactly at the center, but an important constituent of transversality dialogue. We have seen the hydrological cycle, which is very fundamental to any discussion around water, is sustained by ecosystems such as wetlands, which are being lost. And the rapid loss of natural wetlands is as much a threat to water and climate security as is environmental crisis. Unfortunately, the supply side hydrology, which has characterized this sector for long, has tended to overlook the role of ecosystems such as wetland, and at several instances in an attempt to develop these ecosystems created adverse ecological and socio-economic impacts. As the sector broadens its thinking from runoff to precipitation-based management, we'll need to bring ecosystems and factor in the role of ecosystems in building water sector resilience, and possibly think of forging the natural infrastructure of wetlands with the convention physical infrastructure of water resources to bring home the multiple advantages to the sector and provide the sector required flexibility to address climate change induced uncertainties and risks. I was also a coordinating lead author of the IPBES assessment on Nexus, and what we underline as a result of the assessment, the value of a nexus-based approach to looking at water because of the intertwined nature of the drivers and underlying causes of degradation of biodiversity, water, food, health, and climate. If we take decisions to address them in isolation, there are potential misalignments, unplanned trade-offs, and unintended consequences. Nexus approaches recognize that challenges within each element are interconnected with other elements across multiple spatial and temporal scales and call for improving this understanding of these interconnections, opportunities for collaboration across not only just sectors and scales. Most fundamentally, the assessment calls for addressing the siloed modes of governance through more integrative, inclusive, equitable, accountable, coordinated, and adaptive approaches to see that the response options to manage the nexus elements and their associated direct and indirect drivers can be implemented successfully with benefits for people as well as to nature into future. Thank you so very much, and thank you, India Water Foundation, for this opportunity to connect.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar, especially for pointing out the ecological side of what we have been missing, for a very long time. Now it's important that our attention is driven towards that. Thank you so much for your intervention. My next speaker is Ms. Dalia Sapri, member of the board of IWRA Executive Board and Water Security Task Force. She's a water resources specialist with over 19 years of experience across private sector, UN, EU financed and international projects. Dalia, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for the invitation. And I'm very honored to be here with all the distinguished panelists and colleagues and to join this high-level policy dialogue. I greatly appreciate this bringing this up from the India Foundation, and I appreciate all the efforts. I would like to start with reflect on this concept of water transversality, how it can be operationalized in our region, like in the Arab countries and in Egypt as well. I'll give some examples of project experiences and policy interventions that illustrate its relevance and transformative potential. So, because in Egypt and in the Arab countries, water is never just a technical issue, as we already have heard from the distinguished colleagues, that it is also social, it's economic, it's very often also political. So water also is politics, and we need to address every aspect when we talk about water. So in most of the Arab countries, for example, water scarcity is not something that we plan for occasionally. It's something that we live with it every day. We suffer from water scarcity. It's an arid region. We operate far below global water scarcity threshold. Water poverty, we are under poverty line. In Egypt, for example, we suffer from water scarcity. Per capita share is below 500 cubic meter per capita. So at the same time, also we face population growth. We have rapid urbanization in many cities, and increasingly also severe climate impacts, as we all experience this globally. So this reality is even more pronounced in our region, because it's one of the the most arid region on Earth. So our near total dependence in Egypt on a single river system means that any pressure on water very quickly becomes pressure also on society. And when we talk about society, we talk about poverty, inequality, health, or livelihoods, and we also talking about water, whether we name it or not. So that's why the idea of what water transversality is very important and very timely dialogue to have this dialogue now. So instead of seeing water as a standalone sector, we begin to see it as something that cuts across all the sectors and across everything. It cuts across the health, education, food security, jobs, gender equality, climate resilience, and everything. And I already heard from some colleagues that they mentioned also some examples from India, which were very interesting. Once we see water this way, our policies change, and we have to change our mindset when we deal with water problems. So let me give you a quick overview or a quick example from rural Upper Egypt. For example, in many villages where we have limited access to safe water and sanitation, which means also frequent illness, as we heard, when water is not clean, and higher household expenses and lost work days. Women go fishing for water, and all these social problems related to not having available water at home. So this is also there is also another cost which is invisible, which is time. So this time that people spend caring for their sick children, they don't go to work, they lose their income, they have their children miss also school, which also affects their education. So this time cost is usually carried out also by women and girls. So when water is planned in isolation, these impacts are rarely counted. So when water is planned transversely, this all these issues can be tackled and become central become central. So, for example, Egypt's experience with integral rural sanitation programs is very important when sanitation projects were established, and we had expansion in sanitation projects. This were linked with public health goals. The results go far beyond pipes and treatment plants and all the only technical engineering projects, but we put in mind the waterborne diseases, the lower healthcare cost, and also children health outcomes. So I would also like to add that this logic also applies to agriculture. For example, in the region where the biggest consumer of water in Egypt is agriculture, consumes about 86% of our water budget. So agriculture, but also agriculture employs large share of the poor people and consumes the water. So for decades, we try to solve this by focusing on efficiency alone. But nowadays, people we tried before to think about better irrigation, better technology for irrigation, but this is turned out that it's not enough. So we're trying to integrate the social aspect, the health, as I said, and all other aspects. So Egypt now is also trying to use the treated to reuse the water. We have an extensive network of water reuse in the delta, because we don't have enough water to cover all the new projects for irrigation, and because of, as I said, the increase in population and other aspects, so we need more water. So we have now established a lot of many treatment plants with which provide now billions of cubic meters for reclaimed water each year for agriculture use. These projects also support land reclamation and it protects scarce fresh water, and also it creates projects because in plant operation monitoring, we hire people, they generate employment across farming and value chains. So here, water policy, food security, livelihoods all move together. We don't only look at the technical issues of water scarcity, but we look as a whole and holistic approach for the whole society with problems. I'll just add for the I want to also bring to our attention that we cannot ignore the gender dimension. Like in our region, also water insecurity shows up as unpaid labor for women. As I said, women fetching water, they also manage households with unreliable supply. They care for family members affected with water-related illness. So when water service improve, women get water, again time, and also their life will change. They will, maybe the children will have better education, and they will have good employment and participate in public life. So I think water transversality is also a pathway toward gender equality, and it also can do much more in linking water strategies with social protection systems, like as I said, cash transfer, food subsidies, and housing programs. So I don't want to take so much time, but I would like to say that um, water transversality is not an theoretical concept. It has to be a practical response to complex and interconnected challenges. If we place water at the center of poverty eradication, social inclusion, livelihoods, and climate change, we move beyond silos. We have to move all together. We don't we need to have more discussions, and by doing this we move closer also to promise the 2030 agenda, which is approaching, and we need to work together so no one is left behind. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Dahlia. And we might be thousands of kilometers away, but the challenges are the same, especially for women. Thank you so much. My next speaker for today's evening is Stefania Corrado. She's an advocacy and communication expert with the Mountain Partnership at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations since March 23. She brings over 8 years of international experience in communications, advocacy, and higher education outreach. Stefania, please.
Yeshwada, I'm just going to share my screen if that's okay. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, we can see your slides.
Okay, fantastic. Here we go. Okay, thank you, distinguished speakers, Dr. Kumar. Thank you very much for this invitation, ladies and gentlemen, and friend of mountains. First of all, I would like to thank the India Water Foundation for this opportunity to contribute to this very interesting high-level policy dialogue on the importance of water transversality. The India Water Foundation is a very valued member of the Mountain Partnership, so we're happy to be working with each other on this important topic. And I'm here really to present the role of the Mountain Partnership in promoting water transversality and also integrated approaches to sustainable mountain development. So I think it's important that when we're talking about water, we talk about also from where it's coming from, right? So up to 60% of the world's fresh water originates in mountains, and nearly 2 billion people depend on water from mountains for their essential daily needs, livelihoods, and cultural practices. So mountains and glaciers play a major role in global water cycle. It's not just a mountain issue. They are fundamental to food and water security, rural livelihoods, and energy systems well beyond mountain ecosystems and regions. But as we know, and we've discussed in this discussion, that these water towers are under growing pressure. Climate change is altering rainfall, reducing snow cover, and accelerating glacier retreat. So this is why we're seeing reduction in water availability for agriculture in mountain regions and also in the downstream lowlands. So rural mountain communities in developing countries who are already facing poverty, food insecurity, and limited access to basic services are disproportionately being affected by these challenges. Most of them rely on small-scale farming and have no alternative water resources. So as the scarcity is intensifying, they face crop failures, reduced yields, and even forced mobility as their livelihoods come under threat. So we're seeing more men and youth migrate in search of better opportunities, and this often leads to women staying behind to take care of the households and farms. So in fact, more than 50% of women in mountain areas carry out agricultural activities, though they often lack access to credit, training, markets, and other basic services. So if we can look into some of the solutions, we've talked about water transversality and how it is connecting everything from the ecosystems, agriculture, energy, health, and food security. So to address all of these interconnected challenges that we're seeing in mountains, it really demands this coordinated, inclusive, and cross-cutting action. Some of the examples that we've been seeing in our work is to first integrate mountain-related topics into global climate and development forums, promoting more inclusive decision-making, so having mountain communities be more present in these discussions as well, that supports adaptation efforts and builds resilience. To promote sustainable mountain agri-food systems through policies that strengthen sustainable water management and climate-resilient farming practices, protect agrobiodiversity, and improve access to markets. What we know is that mountain communities have been stewarding these lands for centuries, and they use sustainable methods and sustainable agri-food systems like terracing to kind of sustainably manage the land and the water. And also supporting more community-based governance of shared water resources, and also building a capacity of local communities and also institutions to ensure equitable and sustainable use of water resources. And what we mostly do with the Mountain Partnership is strengthening multi-stakeholder partnerships and transboundary cooperation. So many mountain watersheds cross borders, and many water challenges link upstream and downstream communities together. So scaling water transversality really depends on these cooperation among all the different scales, sectors, communities, regions. So this is where we can talk a little bit about the Mountain Partnership and how we are working together, bringing together these stakeholders that sometimes aren't always speaking with each other or working side by side, helping them connect mountain priorities with wider global climate and development processes. So the partnership was founded in 2002 during the UN International Year of Mountains. It is the only United Nations voluntary alliance dedicated to protecting mountain people and environments around the world. Today, we have almost 700 members, including 74 governments, 24 IGOs, and around 589 major groups. So this includes also civil society, NGOs, private sector. The Secretariat is hosted by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, which is also the lead UN agency for mountain issues. And we are financially supported by Andorra, Italy, Kyrgyzstan, and Switzerland. So the work we do is divided into 4 pillars: advocacy, so raising awareness and mobilizing political support for sustainable mountain development; through major international processes. Then we also have capacity development courses, so strengthening skills and understanding through courses and learning initiatives focused on sustainable mountain development and agrobiodiversity. And last year for our course in 2025, we actually focused on glaciers and water. So it was a very important course for this topic. And then communications and knowledge sharing, so producing and sharing publications that are also produced together with Mountain Partnership members, policy brief videos, and other products that help build and exchange knowledge. And finally, the joint action, so working together with other Mountain Partnership members through on-the-ground initiatives and enabling coordinated work across different sectors and regions. So in terms of advocacy, thanks to the efforts of our Mountain Partnership members, the mountains have been gaining a lot of momentum on the global scale. So the partnership advocates together as one mountain voice to ensure that issues are mainstreamed in global UN processes and frameworks. So we have the 5 years of action for the development of mountain regions, and also the International Year of Glaciers Preservation 2025, which is coming to a close in March 2026, but transitioning into the decade of action for cryospheric sciences. So the Mountain Partnership Secretariat has been working very closely with WMO and UNESCO to raise global awareness on the urgency of protecting glaciers and mountain regions as critical freshwater resources, as the lead of the global campaign task force for the year. But now, also in 2026, we have the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists. So that will also be the theme of International Mountain Day on 11th of December. We'll be focusing on rangelands and the importance of pastoralists and their role of being stewards of mountain ranges and mountains' water resources. In the UN Rio Conventions, we do a lot of work to mainstream mountain issues within all three of them. And at the UNFCCC COP30 in Belém, it was announced that a dialogue on mountains and climate change will take place at SAPSTA 64 in Bonn, Germany. So this is a good opportunity to continue the dialogue on mountains, on water, and how we can restore mountain ecosystems. So just to give you also some examples on the projects that the Mountain Partnership is implementing together with other Mountain Partnership members on the ground that are helping mountain communities preserve centuries-old traditional knowledge and cultural heritage, while also strengthening their economies through sustainable value chains and high-quality, low-impact mountain products. So these efforts include a labeling scheme for mountain products, a business incubator that supports small-scale entrepreneurship in mountains, predominantly women-led enterprises, a gastronomic itineraries linking farmers to sustainable tourism, and an ethical fashion initiative focusing on connecting traditional craftsmanship to contemporary design. So really here, the projects that we're working on are all about enhancing the mountain livelihoods and giving more opportunity for value chains to be strengthened and better access to markets. So just to conclude with some takeaways that also I've been getting from this conversation today, water transversality is positioning water as a cross-cutting policy instrument for poverty alleviation, social inclusion, and also livelihood generation in mountain regions. So working on these integrated approaches can strengthen food security, support inclusive employment, and build resilience in the face of climate change and the challenges that mountain communities are facing today. So strengthening value chains and cooperatives can help improve market access and incomes and reducing that vulnerability. Indigenous peoples, women, and local communities are also central to making solutions effective. And youth-led initiatives and enterprises, when supported by smart financing and investments and intergenerational collaboration, can also spur innovation and long-term resilience, and also avoiding that youth have to leave their home in the mountains and can stay where there are opportunities. And lastly, the multi-stakeholder partnerships working together in a coordinated, non-fragmented way are essential to really scaling up the impact and ensuring that mountain communities are not left behind. So just to end here with, the goal of the Mountain Partnership is really to convey that mountain challenges and water challenges are not only concerning mountain regions, but also the sustainability of our entire planet. And so we know that water is connecting us all from the highest peaks of mountains to the plains to the coasts. And when we manage it sustainably and equitably, so we're listening to those mountain communities and their knowledge, it can unite us across borders, sectors, generations, and communities. So I think we look forward to continue working with the India Water Foundation to raise awareness about these issues and to ensure that mountain ecosystems and their precious waters resources can continue supporting life, culture, and opportunity for the whole world, for present and future generations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stefania, for giving us an overview of the Mountain Partnership to all other partners who are there as speakers. Thank you so much. And uh, our concluding speaker for today's event is Dr. Deepak Ranjan Sena. He's an international researcher in hydrology and water resource management at the International Water Management Institute. He holds a PhD in agricultural engineering from IIT Kharagpur, specializes in soil moisture dynamic, hydrological modeling, and sustainable water resource systems with 25 years of experience. Dr. Sena, please.
Thank you, Shweta, for giving me this opportunity, and Dr. Arvind Kumar also. This is so kind of you. In fact, Dr. Alok Sikka is supposed to give this deliberation. Just putting myself into the shoes of Alok Sikka is really a upheaving job that I'm trying to do. So to start with the what, because I'm the last speaker and have already heard many people around, many panelists who have already put several things related to the water transversality. I would like to mention some of the experiences that we had in the recent time, for the last 3-4 years. How do we leverage on technologies to take this transversality from the talk of a meeting sphere to a kind of actionable thing, in which we are planning that we have carried out that work in the Ganges Basin, in water, energy, and food nexus, environmental nexus, and giving it to the transversality domain to the ESG, like your environmental, your social, as well as governance domain. So if you talk about these domains together, if these sectors, as we already know, that the water, energy, food nexus sectors are interconnected. There are some kind of a tangible connections as well as intangible connections. So if I talk about that particular part, which is basically quite apt to this particular water transversality dialogue, I'll be placing this water as at the center of the poverty reduction and dignity and inclusion. The one thing that comes to our mind, those lever, that the policy lever that we need to look at to give certain outcomes related to the health security, your livelihood and food security, your gender equity and climate resilience. Of course, that is the inclusive growth. Like if you talk about this transversality, the basic idea is how do we translate these water policies into the different other policies like social policy or economic policy, as well as climate policies. So turning the lift to the questions that have been, used for guiding this particular talk across the panelists. The first question is all about how do we reposition ourselves in the water sector as a kind of service provider to a cross-cutting policy instrument. Basically the core point is how water becomes a transversal when it is treated as a policy lever that governs outcomes. Those outcomes are not only limited to poverty, jobs, health, and resilience. There are some other sectors probably which are undetected or not right now is being considered. So, so it is not basically water sectors to be a kind of infrastructure delivery. Am I audible to you? Hello.
Yes, you are
Yeah,
audible. Please
yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. Uh, so the basic is that in the process of developing this water energy food nexus in a quantifiable form to able to understand the hotspots of those uh, uh, actions, those interactions at a particular level, which is spatially explicit. So we leveraged on various technologies, starting from the biophysical modeling, the hydrological modeling, the primary data, so that the information gets spatially explicit, and we could be able to identify those hotspots where that particular water energy food nexus is working fine and somewhere it is not working fine. So this kind of helps us in governing water like an economic and social instrument. Okay, so because it shows that upfront how a water decision changes your incomes, your vulnerability, your energy cost, ecology stability, and so forth, so on. Like so that kind of policy innovations that we can propose, like how do we able to connect this water energy food nexus sectors to those ESG outcomes? Is there anything that we can be able to take this water energy food nexus in a quantifiable form to be able to put those policies which are working in silos? Can we be able to subsume those common agendas of those policies to a particular sector? So these kind of things are very much essential. And about the second question that we have been asking, like how this integrated water governance creates jobs. Like it shifts the unit of action from the projects to it is no more a water related project. It should be livelihood systems. So in the process, it connects every sectors together. So let us talk about agriculture. Can we have managing water in the agriculture? How do we be able to create jobs? Like targeting reliable irrigations and crop choices and water productivity can raise labor demands for the input supply, services, and the value chains. So this is one part. Second part is suppose there are environmental flow conditions which is being taken into consideration. In that, managing those environmental flows, this water quality can safeguard the ecosystem services like your fish habitats, it stabilizes the income of the inland fisheries and everything. And further, is there a possibility that agriculture consumes 75 to 80% of the entire water, fresh water? So is there a possibility that we can divert some of the water from the agriculture and put it in some kind of micro enterprises where the predictable local water access reduces the downtime for the micro enterprises, like food processing, your livestock, say your brick and kiln factories. So there are several other things as well. And also, there are some certain things like nature-based solutions, like watershed restoration, wetland revival, recharge structures. In that way, probably creating those infrastructures also require kind of employment. So, and those employments are basically being, categorized as green jobs and reduces. So, the policy innovations here should be like, can we talk about a kind of thing like jobs per drop of water? This kind of things should come into place, like include as kind of simple employment lanes in water allocation scenarios to the most vulnerable group and creating stable jobs. And the third question that how to align water center strategies with social protection for multidimensional poverty. Like whether we will identify those hotspots, like in water energy food nexus, we identified what is the trade-off of different sectors across those water energy and food system. Now, which particular sector is working fine and at which part of a particular basin. So identifying this, we can be able to align our investments. I mean, we can rationalize the investment rather than putting the investment at fancy and whim up a particular requirement. Will it be possible that we can prioritize those investments based on those water and energy food nexus sectors? So these are some of the things that we need to understand before looking at the transversality issues, that how these water energy food nexus systems can be indirectly be connected to those ESG outcomes through leveraging through several techniques with AI hub and blockchain technology, and the data. Data is also very important from the perspective of transparency, creating transparency among the users as well as the government sectors. We already heard that some of the people are talking about AI hub. AI is being used, but it is also used responsibly. You might have heard that CGIR has been developing this agri LLM system to be able to develop a kind of advisory system for the farmers. And EMEA itself also has got a Sukha Rakshak AI, which helps provides farmers a near real-time information about what is the contingency plan they can have right now. So these kind of things are the part of the systems. And at the last time, as we have been talking about these systems, I would like three lenses for the policymakers. Like first one is, can water be kept as a time creator? Like water investment is more towards a human capital investment. That is, reliable water supply returns hours back to the households, especially women and girls. These hours becomes part of the education, their paid work, care economy, and many like civic participation. And the second one is water as a risk observer. Like as we say that water, the poverty is not with human alone. The ecosystem also has got poverty in terms of access to good service of this water. And uh, quality of the water is also very important for this. That the policy implication is, how do we secure water as the cheapest form for the social protections? And the third one is, the last one is, can we take water as a local economic engine? Like small water access changes everything, like irrigation, like higher farm income, fisheries like nutrition and jobs, and micro enterprises like rural growth, and of course green services like ecosystem restoration related employment. So the policy implication is, water programs can be used as a tangible growth strategy for this transversality of water to be a reality in a future domain. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sena, for showing us in detail about water, energy, food nexus and how transversality is important. Thank you so much for your contribution. After listening to all the speakers, I can say that our objective is to ensure that water benefits are equitably and sustainably accessible to all. This requires the removal of structural barriers that prevent access to water resources and services and that limit participation in water institutions and processes. It means ensuring that excluded groups have a voice in water planning and distribution. To address these growing risks, we have to integrate science, policy, and practice to drive equitable, resilient, and sustainable water management solutions. Equitable access ensures, particularly for women, time saving, improved health, and greater economic partnership and participation. Recognizing that water is both an economic driver and a fundamental human right, we have to work across food systems, urban development, industrial growth, and ecosystem sustainability to ensure that water serves as a catalyst for inclusive development, and this can be achieved by bringing advances in understanding with practical implementation of solutions on the ground, driven through partnerships with government, civil society, as spoken by all the speakers, private sector. Water transversality is advocated encompassing economic development, social progress, cultural development, education, community empowerment, and essential service enhancement. Through this approach, we can shape a future where water security is a foundation for economic growth, environmental sustainability, and social equity. Thank you so much. I thank all the speakers present here who have given their interventions, who have spoken highly. I thank the Honorable Minister of State for the Ministry of Jal Shakti for taking out his time, and also the Additional Secretary and all the speakers who are present there. Thank you so much for your time, and a very good night to all of you, or a good evening, or as per your time zones. So thank you so much. India Water Foundation is highly obliged. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.